When I first started in documentary, the document was very clear, probably very boring, because documentary was interviews, some shooting on location, maybe a little bit of archives, and you're very much limited financially and technically, because you're limited. If you were shooting, you're shooting maybe 5 or 6 to 1 on film. Now, film every 10 minutes was something like $300 to process the stuff. Your sound equipment was bad. Your cameras were fixed to a tripod. Then came the revolution of the 60s, the observational documentary revolution, which was really a technical revolution of, freeing up, particularly with sound, taking the camera off the pedestal and allowing, because of that changed documentary and becoming more personal. You could get in, you could follow people. I mean, this is obvious stuff, all the Penny Baker, Wiseman type films. There's been the evolution, obviously, two ways, technically and subject-wise. Subject-wise, I've seen the last 20, everybody has, the last 20 or 30 years, documentaries become more political. The Michael Moore, let's go in, let's take this subject, let's expose capitalism, let's expose brothels, whatever. That's been one trend. There's the trend in the 70s looking at families, looking at women. So the subjects keep changing the whole time. Interesting at the same time for me is the change in technology and boundaries. I would say very difficult, as I said before, to define documentary, because the boundaries are continually splitting. I'm thinking of wonderful filmmakers like Alan Rosenthal in the States, who does humorous, comic documentary. A comic documentary? Oh, wait a minute, that's documentary is terribly serious. And he does wonderful comic documentaries about his families, about being unable to sleep and so on. Or you get people like Brian Hill in England, probably names which are relatively unknown, at least to Americans. Brian Hill started doing some wonderful music documentaries. I mean, the best example to my mind is a film called Feltham, which was Borstal. It's a juvenile, Feltham is an institute for juvenile delinquents in England, or juvenile offenders. Brian went there, and he could have done a documentary about this house of correction, straight, interviewing warders, interviewing prisoners, a little bit of narration, here we are in Feltham prison, which has 400 people, and there's etc. He didn't. He went, he interviewed the juvenile prisoners between the age of about 14 and 17. He took the interviews back, transcribed them, then gave the interviews to a lyric writer who turned them into a lyric, into a song, into a rap song. Oh, I've been in jail, my mum's in jail, my dad's in jail, I'm in jail. And then he brought it back, and the inmates then sing out, they reenact that song. And in different parts of the prison, they're doing rap, and terrifically effective. Here and there are some standard shots of the prison, but basically the kids are telling you their stories via rap. Does it work? Do you learn more? I think you do in that way, because it's so fascinating. It's more than the standard documentary. Brian also did another piece, and I don't know whether to call it documentary or docudrama, and you see about the problem. He did a series called, I think it's called The Heart of the Matter, where he did a series, one film on prostitution, one on murder, one on rape. Now, if you take prostitution, what he did was to interview maybe 12 prostitutes. From them, he transcribed their stories. And I think he may have taken one particular story, or he may have transcribed the elements and taken them from all. He writes that down. He takes an actress then to relate that story. I remember the way the prostitution starts. The girl sits there, she's doing makeup for her night, and she says, well, there's some jobs like a bank. You start at the bottom, you rise, you become an area manager, then you become a general manager, then you take over a whole division, and you can rise to the top. There are other jobs like mine. Prostitution You start at the top and you can only go down. And then she takes you through how she became a prostitute, how she makes money, age. She tells her own story and she generalizes. Now, that is an actress telling you a story about prostitution which is based on real interviews. Docudrama, documentary. You see, the boundaries now become very, very fluid. And my way of looking at it is, you're a filmmaker. You have an idea. It may be about a bank, it may be about a star, it may be about football. How do you want to get that idea over to the public? Documentary, feature, mixture. You have tools. You have tools. You have the camera, you have lights, you have editing. Who fixes boundaries? As a documentary, you take your camera, put it on your shoulder, you can go out, you can follow. I mean, it's become very much easier for filmmakers these days, when with very little expenditure of money they can buy their camera, they can buy the editing equipment, and they can do things which is wonderful, which were impossible 10, 20 years ago. The downside of that is it's too easy, that I think many filmmakers, young filmmakers, particularly out of university, don't think about their films. I believe making the film is 2/3 before you turn the camera on. Whereas they just want to go out, let's film, all right, we'll build the story somehow after it's shot. I think that's wrong. You have your idea, you research it. From your research comes an idea of how you want to make it, how you want to plan it, how you want to structure the film. This can be observations. Then you go out, but you've thought through all your problems beforehand. So the actual filming is the easiest part. Half my films have got narrative in them. They need to be really thought out.